Hello, it's Lion here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're going to be doing a comic book review. Today we're going to be looking at Dark One, written by Brandon Sanderson, adapted from his script into a comic book by Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly. The art is also done by Nathan Gooden, so if you know Vault, you understand that this guy does a lot of artwork for them. Most specifically, or probably most popular kind of thing that you'll probably see his art in is going to be Barbaric. Although in this case, his art is a little bit different, and I think it has to do with the colorist. It's published by Vault, like I kind of mentioned earlier or alluded to earlier. And the demographic here is unclear. The main character is 18 or 19, so it does seem to be an adult title, but like most of Sanderson's works, it can probably be new adult, right? That's the middle demographic between young adult YA and proper adult fantasy. So basically it's 16 plus, and we'll leave it at that. That's the demographic for it. And the genres here are basically just fantasy, slightly kind of dark fantasy, slightly like epic fantasy, but just generically fantasy overall. It does have a little bit of a like anime vibe to it, not necessarily the style, but the way the story develops kind of does feel a little bit like an isekai anime or a video game virtual world kind of anime, so that's cool. And there is supposed to be an adaptation of this coming. I do think that, or I read that Brandon Sanderson wrote this for TV, but then ended up going with a comic book for it to make it easier. But I do think there's going to be an adaptation coming, and there's also supposed to be 2 more books in this series coming. But I really wouldn't be able to tell you when, because there's no information about that just yet. And the premise here is basically that there's this guy called Paul. His last name's Tennyson, and he thinks he's crazy, but he isn't, and he ends up in another world. And he's told that he is going to be the bad guy, and he's the bad guy due to this thing this other world has called the what's it called, like the pattern or something. No, well, I don't know what it's called, but it's basically this like deterministic, like everything that's going to happen has already happened and we're just playing our parts in it. It's some sort of like story thing. And it has this religion attached to it. And trouble arises due to this fact that he is the bad guy, right? So, yeah. So the plot is pretty simple. It's not terribly exciting, honestly. For a Brandon Sanderson story, this one seems pretty middling. And, you know, I say that as a big Sanderson fan. Well, am I a big Sanderson fan? If I only really like The Way of Kings? I don't know. But I love The Way of Kings and the Stormlight Archive and some of the other books that he's written. So compared to them, this does feel pretty middling. It follows Paul, who is 18, and he lives alone. He has some sort of mental health issues, and his mom is a defense attorney who has a very crazy client at the time. And so we kind of have 2 stories happening, or maybe 3. We have Paul's story, we have his mom's story, and we have a 3rd story that informs us of the other 2 stories. And basically, that 3rd story is about the people that live in this other world, and it's telling us what they're doing, what they're preparing for. The arrival of the Dark One is near, and so they have to prepare their Light One, basically their hero character, and we use them mostly as an exposition so that we as readers are learning what's happening, but the characters in the story, Paul and his mom, don't know what the hell is going on. So it's really, really good. It's really well done, but it's not a terribly exciting story. Like I mentioned, Paul eventually gets sent to this other world after he gets attacked by a knight. He kills this knight, takes his sword, and accidentally activates his Dark One powers, which allow him to bind souls to things, I think. And he basically ends up on this other world called Mirandis, and he befriends Fiotoka, who is the princess of Mirandis. She is the princess of the Kingdom of Light or whatever. And eventually, after a twist, he ends up being worshipped by these goblin people called Droll. And, well, Fiotoka gets away from him because she's like, oh, you're one of the bad guys. I don't want to deal with you anymore. Goodbye. Even though they were really good friends for, 5 minutes or whatever. And then we get some development of this other character called Nika. And she reveals her story and she reveals her connection to Paul. And then we get a big background of kind of development, background information for Paul, for Nika, and for Paul's family. So, yeah, and then Paul steps up. He becomes the Dark One, but he is... he's not looking to be part of the story. He's looking to break it. And now I remembered what the story is called. It's called the narrative. And so there's a big battle and a twist ending. And then we don't know what happens next because it hasn't been published yet. So, yeah, overall, like I said, it's not a particularly exciting story. It's pretty middling. And I do think that it's because usually Sanderson's stories have a lot of world building and a lot of character development right before they get interesting. And this being one of 3 isn't really able to develop that like power behind it so that when the action hits, it means something. So I think it's just a problem with the medium and the fact that the whole story is not available to read. So yeah, it's also not structured in a way where like you could read it like issue by issue. I don't think it was released issue by issue. I think it is released as a graphic novel, and it is basically like part 1 of 3 of the graphic novel. So it's basically just the rising, like the rising part of the story. It's just the development part of the story. So it makes sense that it's not particularly exciting, but it makes it kind of hard to enjoy, basically. In terms of characters, we have Paul, Nika, and Lynn. Lynn is Paul's mother. Then we have Caligo, who is... I'm not sure, actually. He's either the previous guy that was the good guy in the narrative, or Fiotoka's dad, or the guy that's supposed to be the current one, and I don't remember which one it is. And then we have Fiotoka, Fiotoka, I don't remember her name, honestly. I think it is Fiotoka, who is a pretty interesting character. I quite like her a lot. She's basically the daughter of the king, and she wanted to be the hero, or she wanted to be someone important in history, in the narrative, but she really can't, because the only important person, realistically, is the hero, and she's not able to be him. So it's pretty interesting. In terms of world building, there's some, but again, the medium doesn't allow you to develop a bunch of it, right? Especially with the length of it, it's not very many pages. So we basically get that there's Earth and there's a mirror world, and this mirror world is called Mirandis. And the way that these two worlds are connected basically means that Earth has free will, and Mirandis is stuck following this narrative story based on humanity, I guess. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but there is a connection there, and so Earthlings are responsible for this never-ending, deterministic, shitty life that all of these people in Mirandis have. There's magic, there's that history deterministic thing with a lot of religion, because of course Brandon Sanderson writes a lot of religious stuff, even if he's not particularly likely to preach about his religion. And overall, I thought the world building was good, even if it's not super strong. So it is what it is. In terms of the artwork, it's good, but it's not particularly amazing, and there is no fan service in these stories because, well, Brandon Sanderson doesn't really write anything that can be considered fan service in the, like, adult kind of way. As far as I'm aware, I don't remember him ever actually writing any sort of sex scene or anything, so I'm pretty sure he doesn't. He strays away from that. And yeah, in terms of a rating, it's a 3 out of 5. There really is no investment in this story for me, but because it is a Brandon Sanderson work, I probably will read the next one when it comes out. So yeah, that's basically all I have to say. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. And thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys later.